Our next speaker is Daniel McLeod, locally based translation manager, as Daniel is working for Linguatext, an Edinburgh-based company, but he's got very interesting experience and he's going to tell you about his pathway and in particular about his current role as translation project manager. Daniel, the floor is yours.
Thanks very much, Fanny. Yes, so I guess I'll probably start with a bit of background to how I got to where I am at the moment. And so I graduated in 2019, unfortunately 6 months before COVID hit, and everything changed. So I think Roxanne and Rebecca maybe graduated just after, or kind of when everything was starting to open up again. But unfortunately, I was thrust right at the deep end and had to certainly adapt in terms of my way of working and even the work itself. So I started off as a translator. Even before I graduated, I thought, how can I get myself some experience? And that's where, and I still do to this day actually, I volunteer at the INSP, which is the International Network of Street Papers. And this is actually something that I was informed about at university actually. And I still, even last week, as recent as last week, I did a translation for them. And I would strongly recommend, if people aren't sure if translation is right for them, certainly get involved by doing volunteer translations. It's a very worthwhile cause to build up experience, build up your kind of style and your way of writing. And it'll help you decide if that's the route you want to go down, essentially. So from there, I eventually moved down south to pursue an opportunity at Star UK in Guildford, and then 6 months later was forced to move back to Edinburgh and work from home, and I have been working from home ever since. What I would say is that there are pros and cons, obviously, when it comes to working from home versus working in an office. I certainly now prefer working from home, bizarrely. I'm quite a social person. I like to be in people's company, but certainly working from home I prefer because I seem to get a lot more done and I'm a lot more productive. And you just have the time to prioritise things that are important to you. So anyway, that was the kind of background of me at the moment. Now my main role as a translation project manager. So I've been in my role at the moment with Linguatext since August, and it was a very taxing process to actually get into the role. And I was given various tests to do, not just test translations, but I was actually given a project management scenario test, which I'll actually, if I share my screen, I can show what that entailed. So hopefully everyone can, oh, that's maybe not it. I think I need to share the other one. Which screen is it? Share this one. Yes. Can everyone see the Word document? I think that should be, yep, perfect. Fines, tell me yes. So basically this is the kind of thing that I was given. On top of two very small test translations, I was given this project management scenario test. So I can run through quickly for those that don't speak German. Fortunately I've translated it on my other screen, so I can quickly read through these. But basically question one, which I'll just read the stuff in blue. Question one, or scenario one, basically says that clients who have translations checked by native English or American speakers give Linguatext, my company, fantastic feedback. The problem is often German-speaking customers who think they speak perfect English and then complain. See the following scenario, which is below. How would you respond? Please draft an email to the customer. So it's things like this where you really have to think. It's very much a people skills. How would you respond to these kind of problems? So I actually can't remember what I said originally for this, but I think I went along the lines of saying that, I've spoken with other native English speakers, and we've all come to a consensus that actually these the points we originally made were correct, but we're happy to make the changes if you see fit. And I guess there's other scenarios here. So I guess like question number 2 is to do with if you're coming to the end of a day at work, but a job comes in that's urgent. How would you go about contacting freelancers if other translators are busy? How would you go about it, and how would you make sure that you kept the customer happy? I guess number 3 would be something along the lines of dealing with a difficult customer, shall we say, who insist they sent an email requiring a cancellation, even though it never actually even though that we never actually received the email. How would you deal with this kind of complaint? So it's a lot of my job is keeping clients happy, and making sure that you are on top of things. And it's not just, my job isn't just maintaining good client relationships, it's also to try and generate new business as well. That's starting to become a part of my role in the last couple of months by going on LinkedIn and trying to generate new business, reach out to new potential clients, and seeing if we can provide translation services for them. So that's basically that. That's basically the main side of, in terms of finding customers. In terms of other aspects of my job, I would say that outside of my life, I would say revolves around email. It's very much just about making sure you are adhering to deadlines, making sure you're delivering things on time or even earlier, making sure things are set up properly, basically being the middleman between the translation team and the client, and making sure that everything goes as smooth as possible. I think certainly skills, I think Fraser's probably mentioned this as well, that you certainly need to be on top of everything, because it is like a juggling act. You are managing multiple things, multiple jobs, multiple emails, all at the one time, and you certainly need to be able to not be affected or stressed by those. You certainly need to have a cool head to deal with those, to deal with issues that come up. And another part of my job actually is to do with statistics. So any jobs that come in, I have to basically find out how many, well, certainly for my job at the moment, we charge by lines. Other places might charge by word, or they might charge by hour, or things like that. My company charge by line, so I have to figure out how many lines a translated document would be, and then let my colleague know who deals with the invoicing side of things. So there are every day is different, and I think that's the main difference I've found from my previous roles in translation to then going into project management. No 2 days are the same, and that's what I certainly enjoy more. I still enjoy translation. I still help out where I can with the INSP and even my own company at the moment. But certainly the project management is a multifaceted role, and it certainly is very, very full on. Certainly sometimes early mornings, sometimes late nights, but having that variety and the kind of element of unknown is something that really ticks a lot of boxes for me, I would say. I think Fraser has probably mentioned a lot of the stuff that I would probably want to mention, so I'll not repeat. I'll not go on too long. To be honest, I'm happy to answer any questions that people have that haven't been answered, if I'm being honest. So if anyone wants to ask me anything about project management, if they're wanting to get involved in that, they're not sure about the translation side of things and are looking to go into translation project management. You know, certainly my LinkedIn's there. I think, Fanny, you could potentially circulate my email that I've given you.
If you're happy with that,
Happy to do that
in the chat. Somebody's asking what languages you translate from. Out of curiosity, I guess.
Yeah, so my languages were, so I graduated from the ALT course here, and my languages were German and Spanish. But what I find at the moment with, certainly since I graduated, I've only actually really worked with German. German, I think, is a very business language and very technical language as well for the clients that I work with. So I still get to use Spanish now and again, but German certainly is the bulk of my time and my work.
And Linguatext is a company that does most of its work with German as well, so you'll be using the German a lot in communication with clients.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There is a question. I've just read on Star UK's website that they're only able to accept applicants with 3 years experience. Is this a new requirement? I'm not sure whether that question is directed at you. I'm not entirely sure.
Probably, because I worked at Star. That's interesting because I ended up applying for them straight after university and got in, so I didn't have the 3 years experience, so it could perhaps be a new thing that they brought in, but I managed to work for them straight after university, so it's maybe a new thing, but if in doubt, it's worth chancing it, I would say. You know, if at the end of the day, if you don't ask, you don't get. So I would certainly encourage you to go for it.
And an interesting question, do you need experience as a translator to become a project manager? Or if not, what sort of experiences are required?
That's a good question. I would say it's beneficial because one thing that my boss at the moment says to me quite a lot is that it's probably more beneficial for you to, when you're dealing with projects, is to have almost like your translator's hat on. So when a text comes in, looking at it, seeing, you know, weighing up which particular translator would be suitable for this content, looking at it to make sure that there's no formatting errors, no typos or anything that's wrong with the text, you know, making sure that basically finding the problems before the translator does, and making sure that everything's taken care of and is as smooth as possible.
And I suppose it goes both ways, because a number of people have followed the opposite career path and started as translation project managers, and then started working as freelance translators, having learned how projects were run, so they got a better understanding of a business, in a sense.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I've certainly had, well, I've had, how many years have I had? I've had a couple of years in translation. I still enjoy it, and I still do it because I need to keep up those skills, because you can lose them very, very quickly. But, you know, having that variety for me of not knowing what's coming, problem solving, and I guess it's similar in translation as well. There could be sentences, there could be paragraphs that one word could change a meaning entirely. So that problem solving aspect is what drove me towards translation rather than interpreting, because even though you're still under pressure, you have far more time to assess everything in translation, whereas obviously in interpreting it's basically a split-second decision almost.
Last question before we wrap up. Could you give us some advice on how to start a career as a project manager after graduation, maybe through doing a traineeship? What's your views on that?
Let me think. Yeah. I mean, what I could do is I could actually send out this kind of scenario test, and what I would encourage people to do is actually look at websites for interview questions of different scenarios that you could come into as a project manager. And I think that would actually be the best preparation, because then a job could come up and you actually then have a bit of a head start. You kind of can see what potential situations could arise. Internships and traineeships, and I think you would probably have to go through, if you were applying you just start straight off the bat to a translation agency to see if they have project management skills. You could even apply as a translator and say, and if you manage to get an interview, I also have interests in project management. You know, I think there was, when I was working at Star, I actually had a period of a week where I wanted to, you know, this kind of CPD, where I actually shadowed the project manager for a week and was able to just watch what they did, how they went about their day, how they structured their day, the kind of balancing and juggling act they have, just to decide if it was the right thing for me. So I guess there isn't really a right or wrong answer for getting into project management, but certainly just reading as much as you can and preparing it. Reading as much as you can, finding out about different, thinking about the different scenarios you could come into, really is what I would recommend and encourage.
Fantastic. And for those of you who are able to join the networking event, so an event for our links, Heriot Watt students and graduates, Danny will be joining us, so you'll be able to ask him more questions.
I do have documents. I do have documents so you can see.
Amazing. So thank you very much for your time. I'm now going to pass